The static crackle of a distress signal pierced the quiet bridge of the HSS Defiant. Commander Sarah Chen straightened in her captain's chair, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen as streams of alien data scrolled past. After 6 months patrolling the outer rim of human space, this was their first contact with alien life. And it wasn't the peaceful encounter they'd hoped for. "Status report," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her chest. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera's fingers danced across his communications console. "Signals coming from a ship about 3 light minutes out, Captain. Universal translator's having trouble, but I'm getting words like help and attack. Something about a swarm." Tactical analysis. Chen turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Kira Patel. "Multiple energy signatures, Captain. One large vessel, badly damaged, surrounded by hundreds of smaller craft. The smaller ones are swarming like insects, systematically cutting through the larger ship's hull." Chen watched the tactical display as it rendered the scene. The large vessel was easily twice the size of the Defiant, but its elegant crystalline architecture was being torn apart by what looked like mechanical wasps, each one no bigger than a shuttle. Life signs on the larger vessel. Over 3,000, Captain. Rapidly declining. Chen had spent her entire career preparing for first contact. The Defiant was supposed to be a diplomatic vessel, despite its armaments. The brass back home had insisted on being prepared for anything, but they'd all hoped. "Plot an intercept course," she ordered. "Maximum burn." Her first officer, Commander David Martinez, shifted uncomfortably. "Captain, the prime directive doesn't apply when we're witnessing an active genocide, Commander." Chen's voice carried the weight of command. "We're not here to watch people die." The Defiant's quantum drives hummed to life, pushing the ship toward the conflict. As they closed distance, the tactical display gained resolution. The attacking vessels were unlike anything in their database, a perfect blend of organic and mechanical components, moving with an eerie synchronization that suggested a hive mind. "Incoming transmission from the larger vessel," Rivera announced. Visual. The view screen flickered to life, showing a bridge bathed in red emergency lighting. The alien commander was humanoid, but their skin was a translucent crystal, internal lights pulsing with what Chen assumed was their version of a heartbeat. "Unknown vessel," the alien's translated voice crackled through the speakers. "I am sovereign nexus of the Arxian Collective. We didn't know there were other spacefaring races in this sector. Please, our children." An explosion rocked their bridge, cutting the transmission. "Multiple hostile contacts on an intercept course," Paddle reported. "They're breaking off their attack on the Arxian vessel. The swarm is heading straight for us." Chen's mind raced through their options. The Defiant's technology was primitive compared to what they were seeing, but sometimes the old ways were the best ways. "Load all missile tubes with EMPs," she ordered. "Power up the mass drivers." Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Projectile weapons, Captain. Against that level of technology." "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, Commander. Those drones are working as a coordinated swarm, which means they're networking. And anything that networks," she allowed herself a small smile, "can be disrupted." "Swarm units entering weapons range," Patel announced. "Their energy signatures are, Captain, they're powering up something big. Launch EMPs, wide dispersal pattern. Follow up with mass driver rounds. I want to fill that space with so much metal they can't maneuver." The Defiant shuddered as it released its payload. The EMPs detonated in a spectacular light show, creating overlapping fields of electromagnetic disruption. The swarm units flew straight into it, their sophisticated systems never anticipating such a primitive form of attack. Hundreds of drones went dark, their neural networks scrambled by the pulses. The mass driver rounds found their targets in the confusion, kinetic energy ripping through the paralyzed swarm units. "Direct hits across 80% of the swarm," Paddle reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. They're retreating." Chen wasn't celebrating yet. Status of the Arxian vessel. Critical but stable. Their primary systems are failing, but life support is holding. Open a channel. Chen stood, straightening her uniform. Sovereign Nexus, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the human spaceship Defiant. We stand ready to render aid and assistance. The view screen flickered back to life, showing the crystalline alien leader. Their internal lights were pulsing rapidly now, what Chen interpreted as a mix of relief and astonishment. Captain Chen, you have our eternal gratitude. But I must warn you, the swarm will return. They always return, and now they will come for you as well. Chen looked at her crew, seeing determination in their eyes. Humanity had just made first contact, and their first act had been to save lives. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Let them come, Sovereign. We have much to learn from each other, and it seems we have a common enemy. Perhaps it's time your people learned what humans do when backed into a corner. As her crew began rescue operations, Chen couldn't help but think that this was just the beginning. Humanity had officially arrived on the galactic stage, not with handshakes and treaties, but with an act of protection that would echo across the stars. The swarm would return, yes, but next time, they wouldn't be facing a lone human ship. Next time, they would learn why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history learning to fight against overwhelming odds. The Grand Council chamber of the Arxian vessel hummed with tension. Captain Chen stood before representatives of 7 different alien species, each drawn by news of the Defiant's victory over the swarm. The chamber's crystalline walls reflected their varied forms. The crystalline Arxians, the gaseous veil, the silicon-based Petrovar, and others beyond easy description. You expect us to believe, rumbled the Petrovar ambassador, his rocky form grinding with each movement, that a single ship from an unknown species managed what our combined fleets could not. Chen gestured to the tactical display, showing the Defiant's battle with the swarm. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective, Ambassador. Your civilizations have advanced so far beyond projectile weapons and electromagnetic pulses that you never considered they might still have value. The Veil representative, a swirling cloud of intelligent gas contained within an environmental field, pulsed with interest. The swarm adapts quickly. They will not fall for the same trick twice. Then we'll need to be more creative next time, Chen replied. But first, I need to understand what we're dealing with. You've all fought the swarm. Tell me what we're facing. The chamber fell silent until Sovereign Nexus stepped forward, their crystalline form catching the light. The swarm appeared 3 solar cycles ago, emerging from the dark space between galaxies. At first, we thought them merely another spacefaring species. Then they began to consume. Holographic images appeared, showing worlds stripped bare of resources, entire civilizations reduced to refugee fleets. The swarm didn't just destroy. They absorbed, adapted, and grew stronger with each victory. They learned from every encounter. The Veil representative added, their gaseous form swirling agitatedly. Our most advanced weapons are now useless against them. They've developed countermeasures for everything we've thrown at them. Chen studied the tactical data scrolling past. But they've never encountered humans before. We think differently. We had to survive on Earth. While you were developing energy weapons and quantum drives, we were still fighting with sticks and stones. We learned to innovate, to find solutions in unexpected places. And what good will your primitive methods do against a force that grows stronger by the day? The Petrovar challenged. Chen smiled. Tell me, Ambassador, when was the last time any of your species had to truly improvise? To make do with limited resources, to think outside established parameters. The silence that followed was telling. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, Chen continued. It's our adaptability, our ability to look at a problem from angles no one else has considered. You've all been fighting the swarm with increasingly advanced technology and losing. Maybe it's time to try something different. A new alien stepped forward, their form a complex lattice of living metal. The Concordat has analyzed your victory over the swarm. Your tactics were illogical, unpredictable. This may be an advantage. Exactly, Chen nodded. The swarm learns and adapts to patterns, so let's show them something that defies pattern recognition. But we'll need resources, information, and trust. Sovereign Nexus's internal lights pulsed thoughtfully. The Arxian Collective stands with humanity. You saved our people when you had no obligation to intervene. We offer our shipyards, our resources, our knowledge. One by one, the other representatives added their support. Even the skeptical Petrovar eventually agreed, their crystalline structure grinding in what might have been resignation. Back aboard the Defiant, Commander Martinez found Chen in her ready room, studying the technical data their new allies had provided. "It's risky, Captain," he said. "We're one ship, far from home, about to take on an enemy that's defeated species far more advanced than us." Chen looked up from her displays. "True, but we're not alone anymore. And sometimes the best way to beat a technologically superior enemy is to think like your ancestors did. You have a plan. The beginnings of one." She pulled up a holographic display showing the swarm's attack patterns. "They expect advanced technology, complex strategies, so let's give them something they've never seen before, something so basic it predates civilization itself." Martinez leaned in, studying the display. "What did you have in mind? Tell me, Commander, did you ever study ancient human hunting techniques? Because I think it's time we taught these advanced civilizations how our ancestors brought down prey much larger than themselves." As the Defiant's crew began working with their new allies, preparing for the inevitable return of the swarm, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. Humanity had dreamed of joining a galactic community, proving themselves worthy of standing alongside advanced civilizations. Instead, they might save the galaxy by teaching it to think primitive again. The swarm was coming, but this time they wouldn't be facing desperate, disorganized resistance. This time, they would face the combined might of 7 species, led by humans who remembered what it meant to be the underdogs, and who had spent their entire history learning how to win anyway. The integrated command center aboard the Arxian flagship pulsed with activity as Captain Chen reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The swarm had been quiet for 2 weeks. Too quiet. Around her, representatives from the allied species worked at stations modified to accommodate their vastly different forms. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. Lieutenant Rivera's voice cut through the controlled chaos. He'd insisted on joining Chen aboard the flagship, along with a small contingent of human officers integrated among their alien allies. The massive holographic display at the center of the command deck erupted with red warning indicators. Chen's blood ran cold as she saw the numbers. "How many?" "Over 2,000 swarm carriers, Captain," the veiled tactical officer responded, their gaseous forms swirling with agitation, each capable of launching hundreds of drone units. This was what they'd been preparing for, the swarm's major offensive. But Chen allowed herself a small smile. It was also what they'd been counting on. "Execute Operation Pitfall," she ordered. "All ships, follow the combat plans exactly as rehearsed." The Allied fleet, a mix of vessels from all 7 species, began to scatter in what appeared to be panic. To the swarm's advanced sensors, it would look like their overwhelming numbers had caused a rout before the battle even began. "Swarm units are pursuing," the Petrovar weapons officer reported, their rocky form vibrating with tension. "They're taking the bait." Chen watched as the Allied ships fled in seemingly random directions, drawing the swarm forces into an ever-widening sphere of space. The enemy's tactical eye would see this as an opportunity to divide and conquer, exactly as humans had done when hunting herd animals in Earth's ancient past. "All ships, maintain course and speed," Chen commanded. "Let them think they're hurting us." The swarm pressed their advantage, their drone ships moving with perfect coordination to cut off escape routes and isolate Allied vessels. Their tactics were flawless, their execution precise, and entirely predictable. They've committed 60% of their forces to the pursuit, Rivera reported, approaching optimal dispersal. Chen nodded to Sovereign Nexus, who stood beside her. Signal the Veil ships. Begin atmospheric release. Dozens of Veil vessels suddenly vented their crew, clouds of intelligent gas that quickly merged into massive formations. To the swarm's sensors, it would register as simple drive plasma exhaust. They wouldn't realize their mistake until it was too late. The Veil are in position, Rivera confirmed. Petrovar units standing by. Now, Chen ordered. Spring the trap. The Veil cloud suddenly expanded, enveloping nearby swarm units. Within seconds, the intelligent gas had infiltrated the drone ships through their thermal regulation systems, a vulnerability Chen had noticed in the technical data that their advanced allies had overlooked. As the Veil disrupted their internal systems, the swarm units began to falter. Petrovar strike teams, you're clear to engage. Massive silicon-based ships that had appeared to be simple asteroids now revealed themselves, their crystalline weapon systems targeting the disabled swarm units. The Petrovar, who had spent millennia living within asteroids before achieving spaceflight, had perfected the art of hiding in plain sight. Swarm units are attempting to adapt, Rivera reported. They're modifying their shield frequencies. Just as we expected, Chen replied. Signal the Arxians. Begin Phase 2. The crystalline Arxian ships, which had been holding position at the edges of the battle, now activated their newly modified weapons. Based on human theories about resonance frequencies, they had developed a way to match their crystalline structure to the swarm's adaptive shielding, and then shatter it. The space around them erupted with destruction as swarm units began to break apart, their advanced technology useless against weapons based on simple physics principles that predated spaceflight. Swarm command ships are attempting to regroup, the Veil tactical officer reported. They're launching a counteroffensive. Chen had been waiting for this moment. All ships, execute Maneuver Delta. Show them why humans still study the art of ambush. The Allied fleet's seemingly chaotic retreat suddenly revealed itself as an elaborate trap. As the swarm's remaining forces concentrated for a counterattack, they found themselves surrounded by minefields that human engineers had helped design. Simple kinetic weapons that their sophisticated sensors had dismissed as space debris. Detonate the mines, Chen ordered. All ships, close the net. The explosion chains rippled through space, tearing apart the swarm's carefully coordinated formations. The Allied fleet struck from all sides, their weapons complementing each other in ways the swarm's tactical computers couldn't predict. As the battle raged, Chen received urgent information from their long-range scouts. Captain, Rivera's voice was tense. We're detecting some kind of quantum disturbance from the remaining swarm command ships. Energy readings are off the charts. Chen studied the data, her expression grim. The swarm was preparing something big, something that could turn their apparent victory into catastrophic defeat. All ships, prepare for immediate quantum jump on my mark, she ordered. Something tells me we're about to see what the swarm does when it's backed into a corner. The quantum disturbance grew stronger, and Chen realized that their victory might have pushed the swarm to deploy weapons they'd been holding in reserve, the real test of human ingenuity. And the alliance they'd helped forge was about to begin. Space itself seemed to twist as the swarm command ships activated their secret weapon. Captain Chen watched in horror as a massive quantum distortion began to spread across the battlefield, warping everything it touched. Allied ships caught in its edge began to distort, their hulls stretching and compressing in ways that defied physics. Analysis, Chen demanded, gripping her command station as the flagship's quantum sensors screamed warnings. The Concordat science officer, their metallic lattice form shifting anxiously, responded. They're generating a cascading quantum fold. It's breaking down the fundamental forces holding matter together. All ships, maximum thrust, Chen ordered. Get clear of the effect. But retreat wasn't an option for everyone. Several Petrovar ships, their engines damaged in the earlier fighting, were already being caught in the quantum distortion. Chen watched helplessly as the rocky vessels began to crumble, their silicon-based crews broadcasting desperate distress calls. "The effect is expanding exponentially," Rivera reported, his voice tight. "At this rate, it'll consume this entire sector within hours." Chen's mind raced. The swarm had obviously been saving this weapon as a last resort, something to use when their conventional forces failed. Now they were willing to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. "Sovereign Nexus," Chen turned to her Arxian ally. "Your people understand quantum mechanics better than anyone. What are we dealing with?" The crystalline being's internal lights pulsed rapidly. "They found a way to destabilize the quantum field itself. It's like unraveling the fabric of space-time. Nothing we have can stop it once it begins." "What about making it worse?" Chen asked, an idea forming. "Captain," Martins looked at her sharply. "The quantum fold is already unstable," Chen explained. "What if we don't try to stop it? What if we make it more unstable? Push it past its breaking point?" The Concordat officer's metallic form rippled with sudden understanding. "Like a wave that grows too large and collapses under its own weight." "Exactly. Sovereign, can your ships generate quantum fields that would interact with the distortion?" "Yes, but..." "Captain, what you're suggesting is incredibly dangerous. If we miscalculate, then we die anyway," Chen finished. "But if we do nothing, this sector and everyone in it is doomed. The swarm will keep using this weapon, system by system, until they've unraveled the entire galaxy." The command center erupted in urgent discussions as Chen outlined her plan. It was audacious, potentially suicidal, and exactly the kind of thinking that the swarm's tactical computers wouldn't expect. "All ships, new orders," Chen announced. "Arxian vessels will form a resonance ring around the quantum distortion. Veil ships, prepare to saturate the area with your quantum reactive gas. Petrovar, we need your crystalline weapons reconfigured to amplify the effect." "And the Defiant?" Martins asked. Chen's expression was grim. "We'll lead a strike team right down the throat of that thing. Someone has to get close enough to the swarm command ships to ensure this works." The plan came together with desperate speed. The Allied fleet moved into position, each species contributing their unique capabilities to what might be their final battle. "Quantum resonance ring established," Sovereign Nexus reported. "Veil gas dispersion beginning." Chen watched as the intelligent gas spread through the battlefield, its unique properties already beginning to interact with the quantum distortion. The swarm ships fired desperately at the gas clouds, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the diffused material. "Petrovar crystals charging," the tactical officer announced. "Energy levels approaching critical." "All ships in position," Rivera confirmed. "Ready on your order, Captain." Chen took a deep breath. Everything hinged on timing this perfectly. Too soon, and the effect wouldn't be strong enough. Too late, and they'd all be torn apart at the quantum level. "Strike team, form up on the Defiant," she ordered. "We go in first. The moment you see our signal, everyone triggers their systems simultaneously. Let's show the swarm what happens when you push humanity, and our allies, too far." The Defiant led a small group of ships toward the heart of the quantum distortion, their hulls creaking as space itself tried to tear them apart. Around them, the combined quantum effects of their allies' weapons and technology began to create something never before seen in the galaxy. "Energy readings off the scale," Rivera reported, his voice barely steady. "The quantum field is becoming chaotic." Chen watched as reality itself seemed to shudder around them. They were committed now. Either her plan would work, or they'd all cease to exist at the most fundamental level. "All ships," she broadcast, "remember Earth's history. Remember how many times humanity faced extinction-level threats and survived. Remember that sometimes the only way to win is to do something so crazy, so unexpected, that no one could have planned for it." The Defiant plunged deeper into the quantum chaos, leading their allies toward either salvation or oblivion. Behind them, The combined forces of 7 species prepared to execute a plan that defied conventional physics, a plan that could only have come from a species that had spent its history learning to think outside every box they encountered. The swarm was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the most advanced technology. It's the one willing to risk everything on an impossible gamble. The universe bent and twisted around the Defiant as they pushed deeper into the quantum distortion. Captain Chen's knuckles were white on her command chair as the ship's structural integrity groaned under forces it was never designed to withstand. On the view screen, the swarm command ships loomed ahead, their massive forms distorted by the quantum chaos they'd unleashed. Hull stress at 98%, Rivera reported, his voice barely steady. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need much more," Chen responded. Status of the quantum resonance. The Concordat science officer's metallic form rippled with energy readings. The veil gas is fully saturated throughout the distortion field. Archean resonance ring is holding. Petrovar crystal matrices are at maximum charge. This was it, the moment everything hinged on. Either Chen's desperate gamble would work, or they'd tear reality itself apart trying. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Execute final phase on my mark." The Defiant's quantum sensors screamed as they approached the heart of the distortion. Through the chaos, Chen could see the swarm ships beginning to realize something was wrong. Their perfect formation wavered as their tactical computers tried to make sense of the suicidal approach of the Allied fleet. "They're powering up their weapon again," Martins warned, trying to increase the distortion. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. "That's exactly what we want them to do. All ships, hold position. Let them make it worse." The quantum fold intensified, reality stretching like taffy around them. But now, the veil gas began to glow with an impossible light, its intelligent particles resonating with the Archean energy field. The Petrovar crystals hummed at frequencies that shook the fabric of space-time itself. "Energy readings are approaching theoretical limits," the Concordat officer reported. "The quantum field is becoming unstable in ways our models never predicted." "That's because your models never considered what happens when you deliberately push past those limits," Chen said. "Humanity learned long ago that sometimes the only way past an obstacle is to hit it so hard that both you and it break. But you get to choose how you break." On the tactical display, she could see the swarm ships finally realizing their danger. They began to retreat, their weapon powering down, but it was too late. "Now," Chen ordered, "all ships, trigger your systems. Push that quantum field until it shatters." The combined technologies of 7 species activated simultaneously. The veil gas ignited like a newborn star. The Archean resonance ring pulsed with enough energy to destabilize a solar system. The Petrovar crystals released their charge in a cascade of reality-warping force. Space itself seemed to scream as the quantum distortion reached its breaking point. But instead of tearing everything apart, the field began to collapse in on itself. Exactly as Chen had hoped. "It's working," Rivera shouted over the ship's groaning hull. "The quantum fold is inverting." Chen watched as her desperate plan unfolded. The swarm's weapon had been designed to unravel the quantum field holding reality together. But by deliberately overloading it, they'd created something new. A quantum implosion that was affecting the swarm ships in ways their advanced technology couldn't handle. "Their neural networks are breaking down," the tactical officer reported. "The quantum inversion is disrupting their hive mind." Through the chaos, Chen could see the swarm vessels beginning to drift, their perfect coordination shattered as the quantum implosion severed their collective consciousness. Without their neural link, they were just machines, advanced, but no longer the unstoppable force they'd been. "All ships, full reverse," Chen ordered. "Get clear before that implosion takes us with it." The Allied fleet retreated as the quantum inversion reached its peak. In a final flash of reality-bending light, the heart of the distortion collapsed completely, taking the swarm command ships with it. When the light faded, all that remained was normal space, and hundreds of dormant swarm vessels, their hive mind destroyed by forces their creators had never imagined possible. Hours later, Chen stood in the Arxian flagship's council chamber, addressing representatives of all 7 species. The mood was different now. Gone was the skepticism and doubt, replaced by a newfound respect. The swarm threat is not completely eliminated, she admitted. There will be other hives, other attacks. But today we proved something important, that advancement doesn't always mean progress, and that sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best ones. Sovereign Nexus stepped forward, their crystalline form glowing with an inner light. You've taught us more than tactics, Captain. You've shown us that true strength lies not in technology, but in the willingness to think differently, to take risks that seem impossible. That's what humanity does best, Chen smiled. We look at the impossible and say, why not? We take the tools we have, no matter how primitive they might seem, and we find ways to make them work. And now, with allies like you, imagine what else we might accomplish. The chamber erupted in agreement. Plans were already being made to share technology, to establish permanent diplomatic relations, to create a combined fleet that would protect their sector of space. As Chen looked out at the assembled aliens, crystalline, gaseous, silicon, and metal, she realized that humanity had achieved something far greater than a military victory. They'd shown the galaxy a new way of thinking, a reminder that progress wasn't always about moving forward. Sometimes it meant remembering where you came from and bringing those ancient lessons into the future. The Defiance Quantum Communications Array was already transmitting their first reports back to Earth. Humanity's first major interaction with alien life had been a success, not through overwhelming force or advanced technology, but through the very things that had allowed their species to survive and thrive against all odds: creativity, determination, and the courage to try the impossible. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity.